Someone shot the food. Light force flooding out.
Good evening, everybody. It is Monday, June the 15th, 2020. Boy, we've been gone a while, and we have absolutely missed all you guys. Hey, Kelvin, how's it going? As always, I am Slacker Kite. I am what boy hit button do show make it go vroom. Of course, always returning with us, we have our two regulars coming back to fill your ear holes with delight. We have good old Brian, aka Wonder Boy, sitting at the helm here. What's up, buddy?
Yo, it has been too damn long. Now, granted, it is for a very good reason why we were gone for 2 weeks, but I will have to say my absence has been 3 weeks because of some bullshit. And will say I am very glad that we are back doing this show. Um, Obviously, battles are still out there to be fought. Things have not ended. No victor. We have had victories, but victories have not been secured all the way around, and those fights shall continue with full-on support for myself. But in the meantime, though, video games happen, and video games still need to be talked about. Just like I've still been talking about wrestling from time to time, and various other things. Especially if you follow me on Twitter, I'm sure you've seen all of the other things that I've been talking about. But yeah, no, these things need to be discussed, and I'm glad that we're actually back to it. This coming back to this show like gives me a little bit of normalcy. I haven't really had that structure for a while. It's just been a lot of barreling forward, juggernaut style, in terms of just like pushing movements and pushing viewpoints and getting that sort of stuff out there. So it's everybody needs a break from these
Absolutely.
things, and this will be a nice little 2-hour break before I go back to fucking shit posting the police. What up?
We'll get to that and why we haven't stremmed in a while very shortly. Trust me, but get all the pleasantries out of the way. John Pod, John Borg, how you do? And of course, we can't do a show without the lovely, delightful Lindsay, Lady Marilyn. Good to have you back on the show today.
It's good to be back. I have missed all of you so much. Um, and y'all are my bright spot in all of the ridiculousness and ugliness that has been happening lately. So I'm happy to be back. And yeah, we're gonna get angry today. Be prepared for squeaky rage.
I don't know how much energy I'll be putting into the madness today because anyone who is in our Discord probably knows the last 2 weeks I've been stressed the hell out for multiple reasons, including my job. Somebody tried to hack us, and everything went fine. Nobody's data was lost or anything, but um, once you start having to go through dental industry stuff and CAPA requirements and all that phasing, I'm very tired. But that has nothing to do with video games. Let's go with you guys. Brian, what have you been up to the last 2 weeks? What have you been playing?
Well, I haven't been playing a ton, not gonna lie. I've been basically like running dailies on Apex Legends. I've been dipping my toes into some of the stuff from the itch.io bundle that we're going to talk about here a little bit later. But yeah, I haven't really been playing a ton of stuff, honestly. I've just been a lot of my focus has been elsewhere, um, whether it be external or internal. So,
Don't know where that could have gone.
right, right. No, I will say I am low key like looking in at my bank account to see if I can justify jumping on that Last of Us 2 bandwagon though.
Oh yeah, I am 300% in on that, but I knew that before like any reviews came out that The Last of Us, as I've said before, easily my favorite game of the last decade. Like just hands down a goddamn masterpiece. But Lindsay, how you been doing?
I've been okay. I am currently doing my best impersonation of a lobster as I helped the Playwatch fam try to put up an awning in their backyard last night or yesterday. And if you haven't seen the sun in 2 years, spending 7 hours straight in it is probably a bad idea.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you got that sunscreen?
Yeah, after my arms burnt.
Damn.
Yeah. I'm all sorts of sore, but I did play a game
oh,
this past week. I looked into that itch.io bundle and of course I bought it. And I sat down with Cat Lateral Damage.
nice. Damn fun
It's
choice.
list it's hilarious. It's listed as the world's premier first-person cat destruction simulator. And I will say that I was thinking of your new cat the entire time I was playing,
He
given the entire point is to knock everything off all the shelves.
Yeah, that might be one of the reasons as well that I won't have the camera on today. Is my shelves are in disarray as Merlin has decided to wander my office and nothing is in order. I mean, so what'd you think of it anyway? Good, bad?
It's fucking awesome. And the fact that it came with the VR version as well.
Ooh.
If we ever get that set back up, you know there will be much flailing around because, I mean, how can you be a cat without actually being a cat and flailing like mad?
I think that's the closest, really. Totally,
Things will get.
totally besides the point. The other day, me and Hollis and the Lady Goggles were all out and about, and Hollis had to go use the facilities. So I was like, "Hey, we're just one exit away from the border. We'll just, stop at the God, what's the name of the shop at the border? Anyway,
Duty free?
the what?
Duty free?
Yeah, the duty free, and let him use the bathroom there without realizing you can't turn around from the duty free. So I might have gotten to speak with some lovely border agents and go through immigrations just to turn around. That was fun, but
Smooth.
absolutely.
So close to visiting, and yet so far.
hmm Technically, we set foot in Canada for a whole minute so they could interrogate us real quick and send us back on our way. For reasons beyond me, the last couple of weeks, I've been devoting myself to playing Breath of Fire 2. I was just looking around on my Switch and I saw it. I was like, oh, I haven't played that in a while. And it won't leave my brain, despite the fact that I forgot how fucking stupid, like, old school JRPGs were that weren't like your top tier games. We're not talking like Final Fantasy VI or, Secret of Mana. You have no idea where you're going or what you're doing. The translation is so bad. Sometimes saying yes means no. Sometimes they will tell you to go to a specific city that is not the right city. Other times they just won't even fucking tell you where to go, and you just have to explore the whole world and hope that you figure it the fuck out. I don't know why I remember this game so absolutely fondly, but this replay has killed my fond memory of it for sure. I think maybe because the last time I played it was in college when they released the Game Boy re-release, and they like doubled your experience and money you get from each battle, so you could always just buy whatever goddamn equipment. The game doesn't even tell you when you're in the armory shops what the equipment does for your stats. It's just there and you can buy it. It is the most flail-rific game that has ever flailed, and the difficulty rating is backwards. Because you start off the game and you just fucking die so very easily, and then as the game goes, you're able to revive your character, so if one of them dies, that's fine. But at first, like, dying means starting over, or at least it would, but thankfully for the Switch, I have rewinds. All the rewinds I could ever want. So I've cheesed the shit out of rewinds. And no one can fucking blame me. I've beat this game already twice in my life. I don't need to prove it to anybody. Alright.
Yo, you find your hill to die on.
Alright.
Stick that flag.
I've delayed getting into what we're about to, but all right. So it's not just a matter of me being busy with work and Brian's work and what have you that have delayed us from speaking. It's just difficult to want to talk about video game haha funny while such is going on. I don't think I have to really tell you that the three of us are fairly left on the scale. We try to dial back a bit on the political rhetoric here on the show because, I mean, this show is about video games and none of us are political commentators. None of us. We all have our life experience and we all have studied things for, a good bit on how things go. But, we don't feel comfortable in general talking politics on the show because you shouldn't be getting your political opinions from three people who sit around and talk about video games for the funsies. But we can't not talk, of course. uh, Even stating it, there's it's almost no point in just stating it. But of course, the murder of George Floyd by police officers sparked anger worldwide. America isn't the only country with dangerous police officers. There's been beatings of Indigenous people in Canada. There's been murders in France by the police. There's been a lot of racial discrimination by police in the United Kingdom. Um, not to even talk about how bad China and Brazil's police can be at times to people. But here in America, we like to have this thought that we are more civilized than this shit, and you can't have people in quarantine for months and months on end and then start killing the men and women that live in it just based on their race and profile and pretend like everything's fine. You guys know that I originally came from Atlanta. I moved to Buffalo a couple of years ago, just to live somewhere else. And in both of my fucking cities, um, there's been violence. There was a 75-year-old fucking cancer survivor that just wanted to give a police officer his helmet back and got knocked down by two different police officers, and they let him lay there fucking bleeding out of his goddamn ear. And just a few days ago in Atlanta, Richard was, okay, yeah, he fell asleep at a Wendy's drive-thru and he was intoxicated. Yes, I understand where things started, but when he ran, there was no fucking reason for them to shoot him in the back. And every place I have called home has had these fucking stories, and I've been too pissed off to fucking even talk logically the last 2 weeks over it myself. But while I don't entirely condone violence and looting in response, I understand. If you don't understand why that Wendy's fucking burned to the ground yesterday, you're not paying goddamn attention. I guess that's my start, guys, for where we are with
It's
that.
not a bad start. It's not a bad start because honestly, I am very similar feelings. Honestly, because just like you, Atlanta is my home. I know I live in Portland, but Atlanta will always be home. And the fact that this stuff has impacted both of those cities as well. You know, we've had here in Portland, like I've been out to protest here. We've had like 17 straight days of protests, and with the majority of them ending with the Portland Police Bureau firing tear gas and rubber bullets into the crowds, rushing protesters, surrounding protesters, making it them giving them no ability to escape or to even like leave if they wanted to lawful like just willfully leave. They have beaten journalists. They have beaten peaceful protesters. Like this shit is nationwide. It is worldwide, and honestly, these sort of things should have been happening since 2014, since longer than that. But and I think there is the question will always, I think, be what specifically about this situation with George Floyd sparked this off in such a to such widespread adaptation of this viewpoint. Um, but the reason aside, I have been so very proud to see the Black Lives Matter movement have a rallying crowd behind it that is so much more diversified now and understands what that phrase actually means. And to see the All Lives Matter crowd get pushed aside the same way that they should be for not understanding what the fight is actually about, and actually see actual change. Like, you know, we've seen Minneapolis is dissolving their police department. They're dismantling it. Portland, here in Portland, there's been a lot of discussion about possibly defunding the Portland Police Bureau by $50 million. That vote will come up this week. We've seen similar movements nationwide. I know in New York City they struck down a couple of laws that help police hide identities of people that were involved in these sort of situations where there was excessive force used. At the same time, though, there's still plenty to fight. I know specifically in Tallahassee with the murder of the killing of Tony McDade. There are conflicting reports about what happened there, and the body cam footage from that incident has not been released. The police union down there has been constantly trying to shield the identity of the officer involved in that from the public, despite injunctions from every journalism outlet that you can find out there, along with many civil rights groups, to release that name. Um, and that's the story in so many other places. Just this week, we talk about Rayshard. Rayshard was traumatizing in many ways, mainly because there's video out there of it. But in California, we had 2 young black men literally lynched this past week. And like this shows this fight is not over. This fight is going to continue, and this fight touches everything. Because yes, while we are not like, this is not a politics show. Politics touches everything that we love and we hate, and the game sector is no different. We've had a number of stories come out over the past 2-3 weeks, centered around this. Everything from a riot executive being fired because he basically said that George Floyd's criminal activity led to his killing, all the way to like people staging protests inside of video games like The Sims. And we've also seen like this heightened level of scrutiny for racial dynamics really play out, even in the PS5 reveal announcement that we saw last week. There was a game, what was it called? Little Devil Inside. There was in that trailer at the PS5 reveal, there were character models that were like straight up racist. And the people, as soon as that event ended, people were very quick to call out the devs on that, and the devs said that they are going to change them. There was an oversight on their behalf. It's bullshit that it even happened in the first place, but these things are making people pay attention to these issues within their own cultural spheres more and more. And I don't. That's not going to stop, and nor should it stop, honestly.
Yeah, to see the video of the fucking CNN journalists getting held up by the police and taken away and taken to jail for fucking being there and being journalists. I forget her name, but the one journalist who got her fucking eye shut out.
Yeah.
And it's awful to watch, but the some more news. The show that Cody Johnson, formerly of Cracked, made, part of his video on everything going on included a 6-minute montage, mostly sped up and in multiple frames, and even in that, capturing 64 different instances, and that wasn't all of it. That wasn't even everything he had at that time a week ago, when there's been even more violence since of police brutality. It's 6 minutes, sped up, multiple cams. It certainly helped to see places that I've been in before, things that I've enjoyed before, uh, having a change of heart and watching. Over the last 3 years, I don't know if you guys have seen the opinion polls on Black Lives Matter, but literally 3 years ago, the consensus majority was negative on it. And over the last 3 years, it's gotten more and more positive. To now, it's an overwhelming majority of people fucking get it. And to see the NFL stating that they were wrong, to see NASCAR saying they will not stand by, they will not allow Confederate flags to fly at NASCAR events anymore. It does fill me with a lot of hope, honestly, and to see people out there every fucking day, they won't stop reminding you that this is horrible. But more people are good out there than these pieces of shit. And I know a lot of us disagree on how we need to handle this and what we need to do. But I've honestly been proud of my politicians here in the United States for doing for getting things started, especially on the state level, especially getting the ball rolling. It's going to be a lot of work, and getting a lot of the measures that need to take place to happen is going to take a long time.
Yeah, I reserve the word pride for a later date right now, considering like everything. But I will say this: there are some local level officials that have really started to get on the right track with this stuff. There are some state officials that have gotten on the right track with this stuff. Um, federally, get fucked. Federally, I don't. Joe Biden can get fucked. Donald Trump can get fucked. All like no one has offered anything substantial that is actually like the fact that Mitch McConnell's already talking about like stalling any kind of police reform bill coming through the Senate just shows you where priorities lie when it comes to that sort of shit. Just like the coronavirus, states are going to have to take it upon themselves to get this stuff rectified. Cities are going to have to take it upon themselves to get this stuff rectified. And, you know, that's why, like, the fact that all of this stuff is happening, no matter where you live in this country, if you live in this country, you're seeing it happen on your streets. You know, I saw protests in, like, middle rural Georgia on Twitter. Like, the fact that that's happening, that points to the fact that people are more engaged at the local level with this stuff, and that's where the real change is going to happen. And I'm very happy to see that. And there are plenty of other places that are lagging behind on that stuff. Looking at you, Austin, Texas. Looking at you, Tallahassee, Florida. Looking at you, Portland, Oregon. So like this is a battle that is not going to be that's not going to end for a while. And I know like there's been a lot of talk online about like social media, people like not necessarily talking about it as much, you know, being like tired from it. I get it, it can be tiring, but you can't put this down. You can't let this fall the conversation end. You have to keep putting it out there. You have to keep offering support, signing petitions, donating to bail funds, donating to legal funds, donating to organizations that support Black Lives Matter, that support the Black community, that support the Black trans community. You have to keep putting your voice out there no matter what you can. If you can't go to a protest or you don't feel comfortable going to a protest, that's fine. There's plenty of other things you could do online. Even if it's just fucking going on change.org, putting your name on a petition, and then retweeting it. That's more than doing nothing.
I'm just happy to see anything taking place. You know, when I was a fucking child, right? The Rodney King thing was news, and people fucking ignored it. The entirety of the reason that the O.J. Simpson trial was such a big deal wasn't over the fact that here's some rich guy. It was an indictment of the fucking Los Angeles Police Department. He only got a he only had what he had because the LAPD was such a crooked, shitty fucking system that there was no way to say that they didn't fabricate something that you could say beyond a reasonable doubt. And this was fucking 30 years ago.
Yep.
Lindsay, I feel like we've railroaded over you a little bit.
No, I mean, I take time to formulate thoughts. I am in full support of our protesters. This shit has gone on for far, far too long. And I try not to get too heavy into the political side of things. I can't go out to protest. I have pledged support. I fully stand behind everybody out there. And I'm going to echo both Brian and Travis in that you guys, I'm asking you guys to get out there and show some support as well. You guys have, like the two of you have said pretty much everything that I'm feeling, and seeing things in Toronto where there was an incident with the police, although the story keeps changing, so we're watching that one closely. But seeing like the Eaton Center boarded up because they're afraid of the looters, and then when a peaceful protest was planned, seeing piles of bricks suddenly just randomly appear on street corners along the planned route. Like, this shit needs to stop. It all needs to stop. The government needs to take notice that the actions of the police, it's not a few bad apples. Because if I handed you a dozen apples and I said one was poisoned, would you eat any of them? No. In this case, that part of the whole is the whole, and it needs to just be ended. They need to be held accountable.
All right. I think we got basically everything said again. We're not news
Eight,
pundits.
real quick. 8 can't wait is not enough. Defund the police. That now I'm done saying what I need to say.
Word. All right. Of course, there is bits of news associated with all of that, and we've kind of talked a little bit about some of it, and obviously we can't cover all of it, but we'll start with uh, the amazing itch.io bundle that, has 1,700 games currently listed. It's a bundle that would normally be worth $9,360. And I know Lindsay said she played cat lateral damage from this, but there is everything from big indie titles, smash hits like Celeste, Minute. You've got Nine of the Woods, Mortician's Tale. There's a lot here, not to mention just so many, tiny indie games here.
Quick Serve Delicious 2 is in there as well.
Mhm.
Played that. Too much stress, much breakdown. Can't do.
This bundle is really cool because there's a whole bunch of games, but there's also like a whole bunch of like tabletop stuff in there, and a whole bunch of like asset packages and stuff too. So it's like there's like a whole pretty much anything that you would want from the gaming sector you can find in this thing, and it's obviously for a great cause. So
Yeah, there's actually a tabletop game in here that I was looking at. It's called Minchin, and pretty much it's D&D but hamsters.
ooh.
So it's like Pugmire, where it's all dogs. But pretty much Minchin go around trying to help the human race. And instead of your typical attributes, you get emotions. So you can be a very fury, ragey Minchin, or you could be a happy, peaceful Minchin. And I think it'd be fun.
Yes. Yeah, you can spend an entire day just going through this bundle alone to find out what you just got for your $5 worth. Now, of course, there's no Steam keys or anything. You do have to go and physically download it, but yeah, there is so goddamn much here, and it's inspiring to see not just how much of the gaming community got behind this, but how how much word got out just by this bundle's existence. And at least one racist motherfucker out there had to say, well, it's $5 going to the NAACP, but also, hey, I get all these games free. What do? I guess I'll $25. the idea that we're
Yeah.
adding to this normalcy a bit.
And I mean, the support for this bundle has been incredible. I think they set what a $5 million goal, and they're at 7.5 or just under 8 mil now.
Well, the original goal
Um,
was like 1 million
Mm.
when
yeah,
they
that
launched
got
it.
that got
Yeah,
blown out of the water.
exactly.
Um, I mean, I threw $10 at it because the minimum is $5, so you can put as much towards this as you want. And yeah, like it's a fantastic cause, and you get a ludicrous amount of amusement out of it. I mean, they've got cats are liquid. Like, enough said.
Yeah, the min is $5. I think both myself and Merowyn gave $10. Um, you can give as
Yeah,
much
same
as you
here.
want. Yeah.
Yeah, I think like the top, like the top donation so far is like 5,000.
Mm.
So yeah, it should also be noted there that this isn't the only bundle going on itch.io right now, regarding these sort of things. I think there's also a Black Lives Matter support bundle that's on sale as well. It's less games, but they're also raising money for similar causes. So there's like that, and then there's a couple of others. I can't remember the names off the top of my head, but there's safe to say there are multiple bundles that you can throw some money to support organizations that are helping out the movement, if you feel so moved.
Yeah, I'm surprised that a bundle came out, and like I keep going through this and finding more, like Runner 3, shit. But we were blown away by the Humble bundle that had so much for the COVID relief fund, and then seeing this as well, like so many people are putting themselves into trying to fix everything at the local, at the state level, especially. That it is impressive.
Yeah, I mean, you just find what you can do and do it. You know.
To bring a little levity to everything. Part of the weirdest fucking timeline is that a Sonic fan site that ran for 21 years closed its door. Um,
Another victory. I
uh,
joke.
I know.
Yeah.
They wanted to support the Black Lives Matter thing and made the cringiest fucking tweet that I could possibly think of. For those who think we have no business as a Sonic site covering what's happening in the US, Sonic is wrongly detained by law enforcement in the first minute of SA2 and Escape. The plot and gameplay of Sonic forces centers around the resistance rising versus Eggman's oppression. Um, it is the cringiest of cringe tweets I've seen come from everything, and this could have probably just swept along and did nothing, but the Twitterverse, of course, had so much to say that the admins of the site basically looked at it and said that, if we can't speak the way we want to speak, uh, we're just going to close this. This is a 21-year-old fan site, uh, but we have no interest in being silent. And we are closing our Sonic fan site because we would rather have our own platforms to speak the way we want to.
All right. If that's the lesson that you drew from that, then okay.
Yeah.
Like it's not the fact that you didn't realize exactly how like trivializing it was to compare the Black Lives Matter movement to the plot of a Sonic game that forced your hand. It was the fact that people basically complained about it.
The fact that people complained about a shitty tweet was the final nail in the coffin that we can't speak our minds here at the Sonic Fandom.
Some people need to have their social media privileges taken away, and I think these guys qualify.
But to round all of this discussion out, of course, multiple video games have supported the Black Lives Matter. God, which game was it that before every match now, it's a first-person shooter that has just a black screen and reminder of the people who have died presently. I forget which it is, but there's been a lot of companies putting their money where their mouth is. A lot of these companies have given millions to Black Lives Matter or restructured.
I want to give a special shout out to Ben and Jerry's for one, their new flavor, Pecan Resist, and two, for the founders getting arrested at a protest.
That was 4 years ago. Actually, they got arrested.
Seriously, I thought that was recent.
Mm-mm.
But
No.
still, for them to still like be standing up and doing things, like they had done so much for this one too. It's really heartwarming. I will buy their overpriced ice cream until the day I die.
Also, a quick shout out to babynames.com for what they posted up there with all the names of the victims over the years. And the game you were thinking of was Call of Duty.
That's right,
Travis. Call of Duty put that splash screen up there. And then also I will say, since I have been playing a lot of Apex added their own similar screen to that game, where I think the first time you launched it after they updated it, it gave you that screen, and then subsequently every time you go to the main hub screen in the bottom where normally you see like updates on like content or whatever, the first screen there is just a Black Lives Matter black box, so you see it every time you go back to the main hub screen in the game. So
yeah. So there's been companies like Humble Bundle that have gone out of their way to, in all of this, do more diversity hires, give more diversity content. And I mean, on Ben and Jerry's, they've been there since that arrest was during the OG Black Lives Matters protests, 4 years ago. When everyone had a fucking hissy fit over people kneeling. But shout out to this cringy ass statement from Activision Blizzard. Giving a whole $1 million out of their multi-billion-dollar arsenal to give money to the United Negro College Fund, Equal Justice Initiative, and Management Leadership. After the bullshit that you fucking pulled last year over the Hong Kong protests to pretend like you're on the fucking side of protesters, want to give just a special clap for how fucking just worthless you are, Activision Blizzard.
yep,
Yeah.
nothing else. That's the tweet. That's the tweet.
Congrats on the tax write-off.
Yeah. I mean, there are other companies like Digital Extremes who does Warframe. They are a small indie company. They did a $25,000 donation to Black Lives Matter and also banned one of the partners that they had for hate speech for saying that Black Lives Matters is a leftist conspiracy. They removed him from the partner program and publicly apologized for his behavior.
But
saying we don't condone this.
slowly wandering our way into other news because A, it leads directly to B here. While we're talking about the money that Activision has, Bobby Kotick has so goddamn much money, even the investment groups representing the company have said that this man himself has too goddamn much money. Receiving $20 million in stock options year over year on top of everything else. This bringing Bobby Kotick stock to nearly $100 million in the company, selling off um, parts of that stock to huge buybacks when he knew the company was about to buy back some of that existing stock. And not to speak of his actual paychecks outside of his stock options, bonuses, the millions and millions of dollars this man has made for basically doing a whole lot of nothing. Whether or not that year the company has made positive revenue, the man has continued to be paid off in millions of dollars while regularly laying off employees.
As if you needed any more validation that Activision Blizzard is a top-heavy company that does not give a damn about the people that work for it outside of a select few, which I think is the already going belief amongst the majority of audiences that pay attention to Activision Blizzard's practices. Yeah, here's more evidence, and the fact that the shareholders are saying this, the people that supposedly Bobby Kotick does the most for with his company, the reason why they laid off 800 people last year was because to boost shareholder earnings. Well, they clearly see a problem with their practices, and if they see a problem with it, there's no one else to throw the like any of the blame or excuse on. Like, it all boils down to Bobby Kotick. It always has boiled down to Bobby Kotick. It always will.
So yeah, just we're getting off of this negative tangent here. This is the last of it. So just a great send off in the you know the shame spiral here. Try to put some positive parts in that, but God, what a fucking loser Bobby Kotick is. You amalgam of everything fucking wrong with capitalism. As a as a palate cleanser, a way to get that taste and funk out of your mouth, let's talk about one of our favorite good boys here at Mr. Video Games, the good old Google Stadia that continues to just do so amazingly well. For 30 minutes today, you could play an unfinished beta of Gods and Monsters that was part of basically a press demo that was supposed to come out that had some models completely, uh, just white. Haven't applied any texturing or anything to it yet. Some models taken out of Assassin's Creed just as a demo of the gameplay. They haven't even finished what the idea of the name is yet. But there is now footage out there on the internet of this demo somehow going out to Google Stadia owners. They got a chance to sit down and play themselves.
Oh my god. How?
I don't even understand how this happens. How do you release this to your gaming platform? A demo for something that is totally unrelated to your gaming platform. I don't even understand. Usually, when we talk about other things, like when we talk about Fallout 76, I'm like, okay, I understand how this problem happened. I don't understand how they released a demo for a game that doesn't exist yet. That's not even theirs. Why is this even on the Google Stadia servers to begin with? What the fuck happened?
Well, and something tells me that now, even if they were going to get this game, they're not now.
Yeah, not to mention that uh, what's why can my brain not get around the name of it? Cyberpunk, there we go, is going to be delayed for who knows how long because the developers are disappointed in what they actually can get out of Google Stadia.
So, can we rename the studio to CD Projekt Rect?
John Borg, I'll have you know, I play the Stadia. Out of sheer fucking schadenfreude, I find this shit so goddamn hilarious every time that I set up my Stadia to give it a quick play. Bless him, Google, the failure that just kinda keeps on giving.
I have no words.
Alright.
This is just dumb.
Into the meat and potatoes, that meaty chunk of probably what anyone came here to actually hear about today. The PlayStation 5 gameplay reveal, unlike the Xboxes, where you got a couple minutes of things. Hey, Magdalene, how's it going? We actually got some real fucking gameplay demos here. We got to see a lot. We got to see a lot of diversity here, and if a single word comes to my mind when talking about the showcase they put together is aesthetics. Like these games that they put out, even if they didn't look the most fun, were amazingly beautiful in different ways for each one. So if they wanted to showcase what the power of the PlayStation 5 really is, honestly, I think they banged it out of the park, other than this thing. You can't get into it without, talking about this awkward fucking looking Wi-Fi router thing that is the PlayStation 5 console. I don't know what to make of it.
I
Okay,
think
so
it
sorry.
looks like a toaster.
I actually don't mind the look. It doesn't bother me, and I think the main thing when me and my partner were discussing this when looking at it was like it looks like a Trapper Keeper wrapped around a PlayStation 2. But
Oh my
uh,
god, yes.
but I am like totally on that aesthetic, like hardcore. Like I'm into this personally.
The number of PlayStation 5 memes that have cycled around the internet. You mentioned that Trapper Keeper around a PlayStation 2. Yeah, it's right fucking there.
I like the duck one. That looks amazing.
The duck one is definitely great. Yeah, I don't think it's the worst looking thing I've ever seen. I'm not exactly mad about it here, but man, it do clash with the furniture.
I'm not gonna lie, it's a choice. It's definitely a choice, but like I'm into it. Like if you're gonna try and do something that's supposed to be like every new generation they talk about the future of gaming. Well, like this actually looks like something that might be in the future of gaming, quote unquote, for lack of for whatever you want to see that look like. It looks it looks visually interesting to the point that we're talking about it. It's not just like an angular box like the last generation stuff was. It's not just like, think about this. When we talked about the reveal of the Xbox Series X, we were talking about how that thing just looked thick. Like, that's just a thick boy that console is. This like has some style to it, and like there definitely is an argument about aesthetics between thick and style, and both can be aesthetically pleasing. I like both of them for different reasons, but I think this. I'm not opposed to it. You know, yes, it made me laugh a little bit when I saw it, but like, at the end of the day, as long as it lays on its side, I'm cool with it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, now if this is the only way you can orient it, there is no way in hell I will ever be able to buy it because it will not fit in my console, like my TV console.
Yeah,
No,
it does lay on its side.
yeah,
That is confirmed. So
yeah. The first, PS5 on side. I know they put out an image of it. Yeah, this boy here.
the more interesting thing to me about the console design is the fact that they are from the get-go offering two different versions of it, one with the optical drive and one without. Like, they're going straight up front with a digital only version of it.
The
And
hilarious thing, like to me, is that Xbox had stated their digital only first, but not shown it, and then PlayStation 5 comes out, thinks that here's what ours looks like, you fuck.
well, I mean, technically they already did that with the Xbox One X. There's a version of that doesn't have a disk drive. So technically they were the first to do that. But with the Series X, yes, we have not seen that model really. I mean, let's be real. They haven't really shown off the console that much outside of just like, look at how thick this thing is.
Mhm.
You know, like, it's a brick, and you put games in it. So there's definitely more that we need to see from Microsoft and console wise in that way. But I'm very curious to see like where, excuse me, oh, coughing, where the price delineation goes between the two, because like, with the main discussion point for months now has been how much are these things going to cost. And after seeing the Xbox Series X and seeing the PS5, as much as it pains me to say, $500 is probably what it's going to be.
Yeah, that's been the guessing point that I've seen. Basically, every website hit is if they're not releasing it at $500, it will be a substantial loss. Like, I know that usually we talk about how manufacturers tend to make their money back in the tail end when developing a new console. However, you want to keep that loss minimum, right? You want to at least sell the console for more than the parts, and usually you're skirting that on like maybe $13-12 beyond what the parts are. Not talking about labor for putting it together, not talking about shipping, not talking about design, just the parts. And John Borg, you're entirely right. The PS5 looks like it's going to wobble and fall over to me when it's on its side, but it
It
works.
kind of looks like it's melting.
I can't wait to see like a PlayStation 5 and a Xbox Series X next to a Switch. That tiny little fucking boy sitting there next to him. Oh, hi. I see adults are here, huh? Don't get me wrong. I fucking love my Switch. It is fantastic, but it is going to be a tiny looking boy next to these two fucking behemoth consoles.
No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong at all. No, but I don't know. Like, I'm getting back to the price thing though. How much do you think they're actually gonna like save on like MSRP whenever it comes to taking the disk drive out of it? Like, how much cheaper do you? Because they wouldn't be offering the digital option unless they could offer it at a different price point. I feel like, how
Genuinely,
much do you
disk drives are fucking cheap now. Like,
exactly?
yeah, you're talking $5 to $10 for a large scale manufacturer in bulk like this per console. really what they're saving the most on is internal space storage because first off, a disk drive is going to be the first thing that's going to fail since it's the only mechanical part in these. We don't even have a mechanical read drive anymore. We have a solid state drive in each of these. So every part of this is no longer prone to mechanical failure if you go for the digital only version. So they're not really saving much money on that in the tail end, which is why it looks like Sony will have the same price point for both consoles on launch. It's just a matter of honestly the one without the CD-ROM drive in it looks a little bit better because they don't have this little lip going on that seems kind of oddish to me in that version.
Now, see, I agree with you definitely. Like the main reason why I bring this up about the difference between including the drive and not is that there is very small margin. Like there's not really a big price difference. Like whenever you talk about taking out a disk drive, because it does not cost that much to include it in there. But if they launch both of these versions of the console at the same price point, think about how that will look to consumers. Like they it's one of those things where I feel the average consumer, if they look at a console without the drive in there costing the same as the one with the drive, there's going to be some anger. So I feel like Sony is going to position the digital version at a lower price point. I just don't know how much they can get away with decreasing the price to do so. Like, yeah, John Borg, like 50 is where I was thinking too. That's a sweet spot, but at the end of the day, like, how much are you really? If that's going to cut things underneath the price of parts, where they really want to see their price margins at for the console as a whole, like you're talking about taking out a $5 to $10 part and then cutting it by like 10 to 5 times of what that costs
Yeah,
to kind of alleviate the market. Like it's just an odd thing to kind of ruminate over.
you're saving honestly when you're manufacturing this is that it is a little bit more difficult to get everything inside with all of those parts. Really, the installation is probably going to be more expensive for that CD drive than the actual part itself. So when we're
Yeah.
talking savings, it's more in manufacturing costs.
I guess it's just one of those things where like I just like the concrete numbers is still just like don't fully add up in my brain. But then again, we don't even have concrete numbers to begin with. You know, we still don't know price point. So yeah, that's just there. I don't know. Any other thoughts about the console
Eh,
itself?
I know I'm not going to buy it. Just the price is going to be the thing that kills it for me. Like, if the Series X is looking at about $499 ish US, you know the PS5 is going to be right there, and it's just not feasible.
I mean, I probably will be getting on the bandwagon. There's definitely some of the games I'll kind of shouted to me, and we'll get to those in just a minute. Here's one Stadia put out of size comparisons of just how fucking chunky the Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5 are compared to previous units.
And I mean, like, we all thought the PS3 was a pretty chunky system.
Mm.
PS5 makes it look tiny.
It definitely shouts at you, don't it? Some big old boys.
God, that PS3 just looks so gross.
You're
It is the grossest looking console.
not wrong.
Fucking change my mind, please.
Well, when you figure when it came out, look at the car trends of that time. Everything went rounder. So they were trying to emulate like higher end cars. You lost a lot of the hard angles. So, I mean, they were definitely talking, like speaking to what the consumer culture was, just the wrong consumer culture.
Blah. God, it's terrible.
I still to this day say that my favorite console was the Wii. You just have a fucking hard drive and a disk drive, and that's it. You look at it, it's a fucking drive you can shove into your computer if you wanted to. It's great.
And it was also very easy to crack, so you could play all the ROMs of the old Nintendo games.
But also shout out to the Nintendo GameCube for being the most fucking adorable gaming console to ever exist.
Yeah, the fact that it came with its own little carrying handle just made it.
Anyway, the PlayStation 5 event was mostly highlighted by games. They started out talking about Rockstar bringing Grand Theft Auto 5 to the PlayStation 5. Can we talk for a minute about how fucking hilarious it is that when the PlayStation 4 released, the big reveal at start was, hey, here's Grand Theft Auto 5, but for the PlayStation 4 with upgraded resolution. And now it's coming to the PlayStation 5. It's how it starts off.
I think it's a call to Rockstar that they need to release a GTA 6.
Why release a GTA 6 when you're still making millions of dollars on GTA 5 online?
Because we want it.
I know we want it. Trust me. I know. I don't know if necessarily I want it, but I know people want it, and I don't know. I think it's pretty easy to just say, to keep going with GTA 5 online, and we'll just keep making all of that money.
Yeah, we just,
I'm sure they're working on something, but
we add a small new event into GTA 5 online, and then everyone's going to spend their money back at us. So, we can rest on our laurels. Let the developers for GTA 6 take as much time as they fucking need to. We're making bank right now.
yeah. Especially considering that people, I think it said that people that bought the PS5 version of GTA 5, they get online for free.
Oh, yeah.
So
And anybody who has GTA 5 for the PlayStation 4 until the launch event are getting $1 million in game currency every month.
yeah,
But what about PC?
Nope. Just for PlayStation 4 owners.
Oh.
Rockstar gives.
They know what side their bread's buttered on.
Yeah, I mean,
No.
granted, they do regularly do like $1 million bonuses for having like Twitch Prime linked.
True. But
You got that.
they going into the games announced, and we'll talk more about Miles Morales later.
Have you tried the best leggings ever?
Let's mute this site. But they did give a trailer for Spider-Man Miles Morales, and boy, it do be fucking pretty to look at that.
It does, but
We'll get to the question mark surrounding.
yeah.
But when you first saw it, especially, let's see if my screen doesn't stop. Good. Okay, it keeps going. Perfect. Because my screen capture, whenever I go full screen, has definitely not been delightful of late.
And spoke too soon.
Ah!
It's okay. It's pretty. It's very pretty. It's Miles Morales. It's awesome. And we'll get to that later.
Some car shit. I don't know. I do love Gran Turismo, but what can you fucking say about Gran Turismo? It's Gran Turismo, but even fucking shinier cars.
Yo, they could put so many microphones on those cars.
You
I know that's a giant bomb bit, but I don't care. It's great.
had Godfall. I'm not terribly excited about it, but I understand the people who do be.
It's a Gearbox game.
Yeah,
It's there.
The one of the pants shitting moments of the trailers for a lot of people was the Demon Souls remake that they announced. I'm not a Demon Soul, Dark Soul, etc. fan, so I never really got into it, so it didn't really hit me that hard. But every single person I know that is big into the Dark Souls type stuff, seeing this remake, just fucking lost their shit over it, and I understand why. It do look goddamn pretty though.
No, this is a huge deal. Like this is something that community has been clamoring for a while, and I'm very curious what they do with it because Demon Souls, like, look, all of the Souls games and the Souls-like games have a obtuseness to them when it comes to different aspects of it, whether it be like controls or lore stuff or anything like that, you know. And Demon Souls is probably the most obtuse of them all. And so, like, knowing how far the development on those types of games has come since Demon Souls, I'm very curious to see if From goes back to the drawing board with Demon Souls in the remake and kind of implements some of the stuff that they have learned, like, that they have kind of put into any of the Souls games or Bloodborne or anything like that. You know, like if they really take a ground up approach with it, or if it's just the same Demon Souls with a much better gloss of paint on it. Either way, I hope the servers come back.
Continuing forward, we got Ghostwire Tokyo.
Yo, this is rad as fuck.
It was the most adorable presentation of E3.
And Shinji Mikami is bringing first-person ghost hunting to your fucking house. I'm into this. I'm all the way into this.
Just remember, it's very spooky.
Definitely.
I am going to reserve my judgment still. I want to see a bit more of the gameplay on it, to be honest. But it's a fucking beautiful ass trailer. I'll tell you that much.
I'm a chicken shit, so I'll probably never play it, but I'll very happily watch other people play it.
We already talked about Grand Theft Auto 5. Project Athia. Man, they literally told us fucking nothing about what Square Enix is bringing us, other than it looks like a Square Enix game. Thank you.
You know Square. Unless it's Final Fantasy, we learn nothing.
A new Ratchet and Clank game is also something that a whole lot of people lost their shit over. I know that there was a PlayStation 4 Ratchet and Clank game that a lot of people truly loved.
Including me. I like that one.
I honestly had totally forgotten that there was a Ratchet and Clank on the PS4, and I was like, dude, are people really caring about it? But yeah, there's still enough going out there that people are fucking hype over it, and they added a woman for reasons.
Yo, the Lady Ratchet.
Yeah, I don't get it. In your Ratchet and Clank series, I am definitely all for including diversity in what your games, but it felt like you just kind of tacked on something else, so you had that inclusion there. To me,
Well,
at least.
you don't know how it's going to be implemented yet, you know.
True.
And like there have been definitely other characters. It's not just Ratchet and Clank in these things, you know. So like there's definitely room to have something like that in there, especially considering like the time travel, like parallel universe stuff that's happening
Mhm.
in this game supposedly. Like it'll be, I don't know, it's interesting to me. I marked out
Maybe multiplayer goodness?
possibly.
Yeah, this is a game that, if it were 10 years ago, I'd say would probably be in my future rental pile, but
Don't sleep on it, trust me. Like that PS4 Ratchet and Clank was really really good, and like I know this. I when I first started, I really hadn't played any of those like sort of PS2 action platformer type stuff in a long time, and I just was like, I'll try this for a couple hours just to whatever. Sucked in immediately. It has that effect. It just does. So like I totally get the reservations about like, I don't know if I really want to try it, but like if you do try it, trust me, it's like getting back on a bicycle. What up, Lady Ratchet?
So, for someone who's never played any of the Ratchet and Clank series, if I were to play this, will I swear a lot?
Not a lot.
There's a learning curve for sure, but
Yeah.
oh,
It's fun though. It's fun while learning.
true.
I
Mhm.
might give it a try if I can find it on something not on PS5.
It'll probably come out in other things too. Also, there is Returnal. It, I still don't have any real feeling from this other than it kind of looks pretty and spooky.
Okay, so this is probably the oddball out of all of this for me.
Hmm.
Not necessarily because of like content or anything, but because of like relationship between game and developer, because this is Housemarque's new game. And this is really the first thing that they have announced since their like big movement. Like last year they released that big statement saying like we're moving away from like the like action arcade shoot 'em up stuff that we've been known for. Because like Housemarque was like the basically made a whole bunch of games that were the predecessors to like or like the logical next steps from like Smash TV and that style of stuff. These arcade shooters that are based on like bullet hell shit with different sort of stuff added into it. And Housemarque made that move, and this is their first title coming out of it. This looks nothing like anything else Housemarque has put out before, and I'm curious because it seems like it still has some of the like the thematic, like in terms of like game mechanic themes to a lot of their stuff, in terms of like a lot of repetition, a lot of like learning mechanics and applying them over and over and over again in different ways before you find the layers on them, but with a story that is much more ambitious than anything that I have seen out of Housemarque ever. Like this is like if they were going to come out of the gate swinging with something to kind of go into their new direction for the studio, this was it, and I don't know if it fully landed or not. Mainly because that name is fucking terrible. I'm sorry, Returnal. I get where they're going with it. Returnal sounds dumb, personally. Everything else I saw in that trailer like got me excited. Except for the name, and I can. That is a very small point of nitpick, honestly. But I don't know. I'm curious about it because like Housemarque has not really done stuff like this before, so I'd be very curious to see like if they really have applied themselves to or towards this new style of stuff.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how they do with it. To me, it has some Death Stranding vibes to it, which I don't know, could be neat. Now I'm going to turn the sound back on because Stray got me. I need this game in my blood.
Well, yeah, I mean, you play that cat.
Yeah, you play a cat wandering around an abandoned world where humans are all dead and you only have these robots wandering about. And I need it. I want it. It looks fun and adorable and stupid and great all at the same time and eerie and spooky.
PC release Plux.
This one
It's
is
Annapurna,
definitely, yeah.
so don't worry. If it's Annapurna, it's coming to PC at some point.
I needs this game. You'll get a backpack.
Mm-hmm. You are a cat that somehow knows to pack its own supplies.
It's a prepared kitty.
There's a couple of games that I feel like the developers must have read some journals I left behind in high school, and this is one of them. So yeah, very excited for Stray.
Calvarin, yes. Actually, a lot of the places I've seen talking about this are making that same comparison.
Well, hi Merlin. Did you hear the cats? Anyway, next we had what?
I'm not gonna lie. Whenever you started talking about stories from that you thought of in high school, I thought you were talking about Goodbye Volcano High, and I got really hyped.
That was actually the other one. That is my journals from high school. But that wasn't the next one on the list. It is Sackboy: A Big Adventure, and I never played Little Big Planet. I never really felt a need to pick it up. But glad to see Sackboy back, and I know Little Big Planet. A lot of people fucking adored. So hell yeah, bring it on. Uh, Destruction All Stars. I'm not even going to bother with the trailer for that one. It's not even
You know,
as interesting.
it looks kind of interesting to me personally, but I think that's just a me game.
Mm. Kina Bridge of Spirit. I'm also giving it's all right. Okay, but yes, goodbye Volcano High. I don't care. I'm unmuting.
This game like read my mind with everything.
I don't even know what the gameplay is in this.
I mean, it's basically, from what I gather, is basically a visual novel-ish sort of thing. You know? But it's basically just like the protagonist is non-binary. It's all a bunch of like anthropomorphized animals. So like, big up on the furry shit.
Mm.
Like this is it's just everything that I just put it all in like a Big Mac and mash it into a ball and feed it to me. It's so good.
I want to know what this game is actually about.
It's about making you cry. It's about making you cry, Travis.
I am definitely for that.
It's about nostalgia and growing up and looking back on your past self and hating it, but also loving it.
So it's Gone Home with Animals?
Yes.
Yeah, there was like a tweet by the person who wrote the story for this, and like, I'm so excited to finally tell you guys about it. It's a story that's very personal and moving and so very gay. I'm here for you. Bring it.
Exactly. Get ready to fucking queer cry, motherfuckers.
Resident Evil 8 is also on what its way. I mean, I didn't get a whole lot from the trailer, and I can't get the trailer to load anyway, so who cares? But
I mean, it basically looks like a combination of Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil 7.
Which I'm for. I am definitely excited for this. I just can't really figure out much from the trailer what they gave. Hi, buddy.
I wish I could jump on the Resident Evil bandwagon. I really do. I just like what I've noticed about it is there's a lot of jump scares and panicking and running and screaming and squeaking, and I don't know if my poor heart can take it.
No, it is not a game that you can play. I promise you this much. NBA 2K21,
The only thing that needs to be said about NBA 2K21 is that look at how fucking wet that dude is. Look at the sweat mechanics in this shit. That dude is fucking dripping.
That man's been to Splash Mountain.
You know it.
Yeah, and I think that covers all the games that were on the preview, and it's a very dynamic range.
You forgot two big ones.
Oh?
One, Bug Snacks, the new game from the studio that brought us Octodad. Bug Snacks look great. I don't give a fuck what you say.
I think it'll be fun, but that trailer was just disconcerting as all hell.
It was so weird, but so great. And then, of course, we got the sequel to Horizon Zero Dawn, Horizon Forbidden
yeah.
West.
I never
Yeah.
played the original Horizon. Actually, the trailer for it started up here.
Mm. And
So I
then,
didn't.
oh, sorry, go
uh,
ahead.
I didn't get a chance to play Horizon Zero Dawn. I'm planning on it at some point. At some point, but correct me if I'm wrong. It strikes me like the whole game as a concept strikes me as a combination of um, Jurassic Park meets The Matrix.
In some ways, yes. I mean, there's definitely like robot dinosaurs and that sort of thing going on there, and that sort of mix there. It's like it's a post-apocalyptic sort of thing, so it's basically like beyond that sort of stuff. And I'll be frank, I have not like finished that game. I've only played a little bit of it. But it plays really well. The story is really engrossing. That world, I really want to go back and um look into that world more. And the fact that there's a sequel coming makes me even more excited to get back into that game before that does come out. Real quick though, I did also want to mention Deathloop.
Oh
The
god,
show
yeah,
closure.
Deathloop.
Deathloop, like that, this new game from Arcane Leon. It looks like it. You talk about a game that just oozes style. That's Deathloop. I am very curious to get my hands on this and see what they can put together. I mean, yeah, the shooting mechanics and the movement and stuff looks really fluid and really fun to play around with. But like, I'm curious about this story of like dueling assassins and stuff like that, like stuck on this island. Like, why are they in this time loop and that sort of thing? Like, I don't know. It beckoned to me a bit.
Yeah, I won't lie, like at first I was just like, another shooter game, I don't care. But the longer this trailer went on, the more depth it had to this world, the more I was just like, yeah, Deathloop put it in my veins, and this was definitely the game that was, a new IP that I saw the most people freaking out over. And um, hell, I will definitely be picking this game up when it comes out for sure. It looks fucking fantastic.
Oh, I I'm loving what I'm seeing of this, but as I've learned attempting to play Borderlands 2 because it was free, um, I can't play first person shooters. 3PS is no problem. FPS is not so much.
I'm not great at them myself. I probably will be playing this on the easy mode, but still, I'm gonna give it a try. But we did mention the Spider-Man game, and boy, there's a lot of weird surrounding that story. At first, a Sony executive, oh yeah, incognito mode with Bloomberg. Fuck it, it doesn't matter. I can tell the story anyway. A Sony executive said, "Oh yeah, this will be a new addition to Spider-Man. It'll be sort of like a DLC for the game." But it turns out from other people talking, this is its own standalone game, but it's more of a mini game, sort of a side story thing. Um, so yeah, people are still very confused about what Spider-Man Miles Morales will really be, how big the story will be, and how much it will cost.
Yeah, so I mean, the cost is beside the point. I don't give a fuck how much it's going to cost, honestly.
Mm.
My thing is the fact that whenever this was announced during the PS5 event, it was positioned to look like the sequel in the game, in the Spider-Man series. It was positioned like we're going to get a full-fledged Miles Morales story out of this. Instead, we're basically getting the equivalency of, according to an awesome article, by the way, written about this by Gita Jackson over at Vice. Vice Games about this. We're basically getting the logical equivalents of Uncharted Lost Legacy with this. A 10-hour side story that does not do justice to what anybody would expect or want from a Miles Morales Spider-Man game. Especially considering that after Into the Spider-Verse came out, like Miles Morales has been injected into the zeitgeist in a much stronger way. He already was there. And people have been clamoring for a Miles Morales game. Whenever Miles Morales showed up in the Spider-Man game, like me personally, I got fucking giddy because it gave me the chance to see that we might actually get a true Miles Morales Spider-Man experience. And whenever I saw this trailer, I got that same feeling again. And then hearing this come out, it shows that there's I don't know if there's just a fear from developers about like featuring protagonists of color in major stories, even though like especially if you're just looking at Spider-Man itself, looking at Miles Morales, is there any more proven commodity than Miles Morales when it comes to recent Spider-Man stuff?
Mm.
Like there's nothing more so. Like it makes no sense why you wouldn't try why you would not commit to doing something like that. Like if you did not feel confident in that, there's no excuse for it. It's just super frustrating to feel like there was like this bait and switch almost with it, you know? And like we should have known because like how would they have had a full Spider-Man game ready to launch like 2 years after that one came out? You know?
Yeah,
We
there's
should
no
have
way you can
expected it.
have a full game ready.
Yeah, we should have expected it, but at the same time, that's not where your thought process goes. You know, like it's just it's immensely frustrating to me to see that.
It does feel a bit like a 180 to put that out there. Hey, it's big old Spider-Man game, and then itty bitty Spider-Man game. I don't really have much more to say on it. I think you kind of hit the chord here that people have been waiting for, something stronger featuring Miles Morales because everything has always been Peter Parker, and dude's been around for a while. It's about time he had his own goddamn story.
Especially whenever you tease it in the most recent game and arguably the best Spider-Man game. You know, like it's just really frustrating to see that that's how they decided to capitalize on that.
By contrast, on this whole rigmarole with the PS5 reveal event here, there was the PC gaming show that came up this weekend, and really the headliner that everyone ended up talking about was Persona 4 Golden is now out on Steam. So you can get your shiny JRPG head shooty vidya game out now on your PC for anybody who would want that sort of thing in their life. The other big news was Torchlight 3 is also out now on Steam. The creator of DayZ is making a whole new first person survival game called Icarus sometime next year for release and free to play.
I do like that in the interview for that. By the way, that the host just blatantly called out like, "So you kind of abandoned DayZ? Is that going to happen?" Like, what do you say to that? Like, whenever you talk about launching a new game, like, what about DayZ? I just thought that was very like it gave me a chuckle because like yeah, logical question to ask.
It's a question that people need to know, to be honest.
No, yeah, exactly. That's why you asked that question. Because like yeah, it's cool that you have a like new thing that's launching out and it looks really cool. Considering that I have no taste for survival games, really, it looks like something that I might dip my toes into. But at the same time, if you have a history of like sort of like pseudo abandoning projects or like passing the buck on this sort of stuff. Like,
Yeah. It's
also real quick, Coop, shout out to the Torchlight 3 logo for looking extremely wow.
ugh, you're not wrong. Evil Genius 2. I didn't know anybody was excited for a sequel for Evil Genius, but that's there.
I didn't know there was an evil genius.
That's everything you need to know.
Internet
Humble,
is
go
cute.
ahead. Yeah. Humble Bundle has a whole bunch of stuff coming out. It's all kind of retro-inspired looking stuff from what I saw, but you have this listed here real quick: Proteus, retro shooter, Fey Tactics, a turn-based RPG, Project Wingman, dogfighting, and Cardo, survival game. So you got that there. Total War Saga, to play what through history. That's going to be big amongst EEPC nerds because they love them some simulation. So that'll do well. The thing no one was clamoring for, Mafia Definitive Edition. Okay. Tell me where the giant Mafia fan base is. I know sometimes I've said I wasn't aware that there was a fan base. For Mafia, there's not a fan base. Don't fucking tell me that people were clamoring for a re-release of Mafia. I will take a moment to showcase Twin Mirror here. Don't Nod, of course, made Life is Strange and Life is Strange 2. Is working on a whole new game. It'll be for the first year a exclusive to the Epic Game Store, and then of course coming to Steam after a year. So, hey Coop, you can pick it up in 2021. um, but yeah, I am excited to see Don't Nod move away from the chintzy style of Life is Strange. I tried to get into Life is Strange 2, and I just got burnt out because it has a lot of the same tone as the original. So seeing them get away from that sort of feelsy game is kind of cool to me.
I like both Life is Strange series and this I'm very curious about. Like I told you before the show, I haven't finished the PC gaming show, so I haven't seen what they talked about with Twin Mirror yet. So I am very curious to dive back into that and find out more.
And yeah, there's a whole lot of other interesting stuff out there. A lot of it maker from Hello Games, Have the Last Campfire, Ooblets. Um you've got a new game from makers Amplitude, Humankind. Um, so a whole lot of interesting stuff coming to PC over the next year that got announced. Um, it wasn't a groundbreaking conversation like the PS5 event was, but it had a lot of that's interesting. That's kind of cool. Kelvin, you're entirely right. I'm really glad Don't Nod is not pulling a Telltale and setting on one tone and staying there. All right, I'm moving things around a little bit because good boy Brian does have an out time, and there's a couple of other things that I want to talk about, and I'm just going to drag Merowyn through it with me.
It sounds so bad when you put it that way.
Make it sound like I've got like someone's forcing me to do this, like has me pinned in my chair and saying you must cast.
Listen, when it comes to The Last of Us 2, I am going to be just the worst. Nobody needs to fucking listen to me. You can drop out before we start talking about The Last of Us 2, because I'm just gonna fucking vomit positive when we get to that part.
That's cool. We all need more positive right now.
Mhm. But yeah, Brian, I know you especially wanted to talk about the selling of Warner Brothers Entertainment. Likely, Take-Two seems to be amongst the largest possible buyers. So, your Mortal Kombat, Scribblenauts, Batman series, all of that good stuff out on e-table.
Yeah, I mean this could be the potential for a ground shaker in the video game sphere. This news broke on Friday. Basically, AT&T reportedly is looking to sell Warner Brothers Interactive Entertainment. Like you said, there are been rumored some major players in the industry are looking to purchase. If maybe I don't know, there's no reporting on whether AT&T is looking to sell off studios piecemeal or if they're just looking to sell everything outright in one package. But we've seen Take-Two emerge as a name alongside Electronic Arts and Activision Blizzard as companies that are interested or like kicking the tires on this deal. It should be noted that the whole division, the interactive entertainment division at Warner Brothers, is valued around $4 billion. So whoever does pony up the cash is going to be throwing out a big chunk of change. And honestly, it's worth it because if you look at the studios that are involved, you have Rocksteady, NetherRealm, Monolith, Avalanche, all of the different WB studios. You have studios that are working on everything from Batman to Lego to Harry Potter, Mortal Kombat, Middle Earth. Like there's so many different franchises underneath this umbrella that it would more than likely be worth that amount of money. The curious point about this for me is AT&T's decision making regarding this, because this comes on the heels of let's face it, if E3 2020 had happened as scheduled,
Mm.
this would have been the first year that Warner Brothers Interactive would have had their own individual press conference at the conference. So like they had a slate of stuff that was ready to come out ahead of this. I mean, there's been rumors about a new Batman game. Like apparently Rocksteady has been working on something that's not a Batman game
Mhm.
to go along with that. And then there's been leaks about a Harry Potter game. Of course, Lego always has something big and casually consumable coming down the pipeline. So like they had enough to where they felt comfortable booking a stage and actually having their own presentation a la Bethesda and all these other companies. And the fact that this seems like they have completely reversed course from that level of confidence to the point where they're just ready to shed it. Now I know that AT&T's purchase of oh god, who did they buy earlier this year?
Time Warner, right?
Time Warner, yes. Their purchase of Time Warner set them back a good chunk. I know they're like currently $165 billion in debt.
Mm.
So they are more than likely looking to shed assets here. And that honestly, they probably look at WB Games as a easily sheddable thing, because like let's be real, like they outside of the studios that they had under their purvey that already had dedicated stuff they had been working on, like there's not a ton of interesting stuff coming out of WB.
Mm.
At least on the gaming wise, outside of Batman and Mortal Kombat and those other franchises that we talked about. I know they had a deal with IO Interactive for some kind of distribution of a new game, but no details ever really came out about that, and it's definitely not connected to Hitman 3. So which also was announced at that PS5 thing, by the way. That looks rad. So I don't know. Like this is just really curious to see how this plays out. Like whoever ends up with this collection of studios, like it could be a huge boon to their businesses, because it looks like a number of these studios already have stuff in the pipeline and ready to go. So you're basically not just buying these studios and their future prospects, you're buying games that probably already have a built-in success rate with them.
Yeah.
Hopefully, at least crossing fingers.
I
So
have
and
to.
like
Go ahead.
No, I was just saying I wouldn't be surprised if you have these big publishers looking at buying this package or parts of this package. I would not be surprised if Microsoft and Sony
Oh
are
yeah,
not looking at this too.
yeah. I mean, especially I can see Sony going hard on them. Batman games alone have been huge console sellers.
True, but it does seem like Microsoft has been more readily looking to add studios
True.
over the past few years. Like Sony definitely has done that, but Microsoft they made it a push, like going back to the last couple of E3s, like where like a lot of the headlines for their press conferences were like, "Hey, look at who we bought, and look at what they got coming." So like, I would not be surprised at all if I don't think this is going to be one package deal to one place. I honestly feel like this is going to be chopped up in some way.
Probably right. Yeah.
It's just I don't know. It just doesn't make much sense for one company to drop that much money whenever really there's only there's a lot of studios there, and I'm not trying to devalue anyone's work by saying this because everybody on the ground level with these studios, like they put in their heart and sweat into what they do. But the real attractive stuff is NetherRealm, Rocksteady, Monolith, Avalanche, like all those
Yeah.
types of stuff. And they are more attractive by a mile than a lot of these other things. So I think it would be hard pressed to get someone to spend upwards of $4 billion to carry as much quote unquote dead weight in comparison to the other studios. I feel so bad saying that. I feel so capitalist saying that. I fucking hate myself. But when looking at it in that way, like it would make more sense for them to pay top dollar for what they actually want, as opposed to trying to buy this whole thing and then rooting around and trying to figure out where they can work stuff in. That just seems like such a clusterfuck.
Me not minding being of the capitalist mindset so much, when I look at this, when AT&T went in for the purchase of Time Warner, they took on a whole lot of debt. I don't see Warner Brothers Interactive really being um, a synergy to their portfolio as much as the other things that they acquired with Time Warner. Um, I don't think that this is a sale of no confidence. I am pretty certain that this is a sale of, we took a lot of ballast on with this purchase. We need to make sure that we go into the future having the positive things that add to our corporate synergies and make us stronger as a company rather than just kind of diversifying into what the fuck ever.
I'm looking at this and just going, please, for the love of God, do not let EA or Activision get their hands on Rocksteady.
Please?
I do not want to see my next Batman Arkham game be filled with microtransactions and not actually being able to play the game.
Yo, who wants to play Batman on Frostbite Engine?
God.
That's
Bite your
why
blast tongue.
I see Take-Two in this listing. I'm really hoping for Take-Two. I know that Take-Two isn't the greatest company ever, but of the listing of interested buyers that have already talked so far, they're the ones that I look at the most, be like, this could be a positive God, I hate using this same word so often, but a positive synergy between what Take-Two has, because especially with Rocksteady, Rocksteady makes these big, beautiful games, and that fits in well with their portfolio.
Take-Two out of that list is the less bad.
Yeah. While we're talking about bad, I want to get this one in before Brian has to drop off with us. The Game Gear Micro. This weird ass shit. I'm just gonna mute the site while I play this because I don't know if this music is copyright or not. You will know that I love my dumb portable bullshit. I actually recently purchased a Game Gear. Shout out to Steel Collectibles back home in Kennesaw, Georgia. That
There
is,
you go.
yeah, the best retro store you will find for your goddamn money. And now they're putting out the Game Gear Micro. The screen on this is 1.25 inch, yeah, or is it 1.5? Yeah, 1.5 inches diagonal. Yeah, Japan only.
So, are they going to release a magnifying glass peripheral?
Yes!
Oh my god.
If you buy all four at the same time, you get the big window that emulates the old attachment that they made for the original Game Gear to highlight the screen from the original.
Oh my god, I was just joking.
But you have to buy all four packages. In one of these, the yellow Game Gear Micro has Shining Force, um, three different Shining Forces for the Game Gear, and another tactical RPG on a 1.25-inch screen.
Has nostalgia officially jumped the shark at this point?
Yes.
Oh, the red one also has some Shin Megami Tensei related stuff in columns for some reason.
Hey, fuck you. Columns is good.
I
I
know.
miss Columns.
I love the shit out of Columns. Columns is fucking
Sorry.
great, but why is it being paired with Shin Megami Tensei?
I don't know why you put all three Shining Force games on the same one.
So they the Shining Force edition.
Shout out to the blue version for having Gunstar Heroes and Sonic Chaos. Those are actually some fucking good games. The original black color as well, having Puyo 2 and Outrun, as well as the original Sonic the Hedgehog. Sonic the Hedgehog 1 and I want to say 3. I forget which one were made by the people that eventually did Sonic CD, but yeah, some fucking decent games here. It's a shame that it's on something so tiny it doesn't even properly fit in your goddamn hand.
This is just so odd.
I would not be mad if there were a $20 price tag. But I believe the yen to USD conversion goes to roughly $45 for one of these.
Yeah, like 45 to 50.
So you're talking damn near $200 to also get the big window along with all of it. So you can actually fucking see the game you're playing.
So, like, how long before they release Keychain Edition that literally changes nothing but just has a little tab that you can hook a keychain onto?
You know, the hilarious thing is when they were first apparently talking about it at Sega, they wanted to just put one game on each of these. For 40 goddamn dollars, they had to be talked into giving each color variant multiple games on it. Uh, this shit is goddamn ridiculous. And before this came out, there was a whole lot of hype around Sega coming out with the next huge thing. It'll rival the PlayStation 5 marketing. And the two things they came out with were this and fog gaming for arcades, where your arcade can draw on power from other arcades that maybe aren't in use right now or something. So you can share your CPU resources as ways to make more money while maybe you're down or something along those lines. Yeah, all of this is Japan only.
Cool, Sega. Cool. You're keeping it on brand.
Yeah,
God damn it.
people were talking about like Sony being the ones to release the Xbox in Japan, since you know Sega is a bigger name in Japan. But yeah, these are all just Japanese only exclusive things that Is arcade culture still a thing in Japan? Because I thought
Oh,
even
totally.
there it was dead.
Yes.
No, it's definitely still a thing.
But there you go, the Game Gear Micro, the tiniest fucking retro console that ever did.
God, it's so weird. That's how. Of course, that's the way that I end my first time on the show in 3 weeks. The fucking Game Gear Micro. No, y'all keep carrying on. It was a blast being back on it. I'll be back on next week. We just had so much. I have a heart out. I gotta go.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, Brian, get
real
back with me later at some point, though.
Yes, definitely will. We got
Cool.
stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
Boom, boom. Anyway, follow me on Twitter at WonderboyOTM. Check out my writing stuff at outsports.com and any other place you'll find the writing stuff at on my Twitter. You'll see it go up. I write all over the place. And then of course the wrestling podcast LGBT in the Ring on Twitter at LGBT Ring Pod. Always fun. Check out the Outsports podcast channel for that every Thursday. Blah blah blah. I got it down to that quick bullshit right there. I will see y'all later.
Nice.
Have fun talking about Last of Us 2.
Will do.
Bye, Brian.
Is it gay enough? Love y'all. Bye.
Love you. Bye. That is the best way to leave a podcast. Is it gay enough? Dun dun dun. Kelvin, sadly, I do not have the time to talk about Alex Kidd and Miracle Work because we're already going over for the next few things. But they're just fun things that I want to talk about, and obviously the big thing will be the Last of Us 2 conversation that myself and Lindsay will have. But this one really fucking fascinated me, to be honest, and I admit we could skip over this one, but I want to fucking talk about it. Namco is coming out with a retro package of old Namco games, and amongst the Namco collection, they are also putting out Pac-Man Championship Edition, the game series where you are basically in a time attack version of Pac-Man, where all sorts of weird shit is what going on around you, and your goal is to eat everything absolutely as quickly as possible and still the same Pac-Man type thing, but a retro remake, making it into a NES game instead.
That is all sorts of awesome, and I don't know how I missed this in our list. Like, yes, give me the retro, give me the panic.
Yeah, I mean, most of this is, your old, oddly, like, a lot of these were old arcade things. I'm not sure why some of these are arcade and some of these are based off of the NES release. Like, they got basically the NES release of Pac-Man, but the arcade version of Galaga.
Oh, I love Galaga.
Ah, yeah. And, I mean, Tower of Joraga is absolutely a fucking classic. You wouldn't have Zelda without the Tower of Joraga in games of its ilk. But a whole lot of various old school Namco stuff. If you're into your shooters of that era, this is a great thing for you. Slaughterhouse, the chibi version of that is on here. I am fucking excited for this. I will definitely be picking this up when it comes out.
In Canada or in the US, given
Yeah.
that it's Japan only for now.
For now. It's going to come to America eventually, and when that day comes, I will be on this. It's not coming to America for now, but I cannot imagine this not making it at least to the States, if not Europe and Canada as well.
I mean, when this does get released to the US, like, we know that we're not going to have a show for like 2 weeks as you just relive all of your nostalgic glory.
I mean, I'm going to at least spend 3 or 4 days just powering through as much of that championship deep make. I do love me some Pac-Man Championship. It is a nice game to just randomly fucking toss on. And there are so many releases of it. It is a great series to relive some of that Pac-Man stuff, but in a new way. It is basically the Tetris 99 of Pac-Man.
Like, if this does come to the US and you get it, when you come up to visit after getting it, you need to bring your Switch because I need me some Galaga. I used to work at a dive bar and we had a Galaga cabinet. And I would spend so much money after shift sitting there and playing Galaga.
Fair enough. Also, while we're talking about some odd things here, Ubisoft made the news in gaming world for having an odd fucking quibble about verbiage. uh,
Ubi, why, Ubi?
Trackmania is coming out with a monthly charge that you have to pay in order to continue paying it. And Ubisoft has argued back with the people saying that they do not want another subscription service, that instead, this is your option to buy in per month. You could consider having it a lifetime, but you would instead be paying for game periods. When your time's over, you can pay again when you want to access it at a later time. That's not a subscription at all, right?
No, not at all. I mean, it's a pay for play model. But, I mean, Ubi, just go fuck yourself.
Oh, the model could be likened to a season pass. You can
Really,
pay up
Ubi,
front
go
for
fuck your-
additional content.
Like, they just need to stop. This is as bad as that one game that's coming out where you get, like, what was it, the Culling 2? Where you get one free game a day. And if you want to play more, you have to pay.
I'm not even mad at the idea of a subscription game, like if you're going to continue to add to it as time goes on, but be fucking honest with what you're making. You made a subscription service for Trackmania. That's what this is.
How much you want to bet there's microtransactions too?
They're saying there won't be, but I don't hold them to that shit.
I give them less than 3 months after release.
All right, this is one that you actually put out, and I figured I want to hear something that I know will make Lindsay happy. Neopets is coming back, of all things. I know it had a, it started out as a website, and then it became like a huge thing around 2007. I remember seeing like Neopets trading cards and collectible shots. Like, what the fuck is going on? And then disappeared.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I played around on Neopets a lot in the early aughts. Like, a lot. But the fact that they're bringing it back for mobile shows that, they're only 20 years too late.
Oddly, like the original Neopets, felt like a mobile game before mobile games were mobile games.
Yeah, they were kind of ahead of their time, and then they just didn't really grow. They stagnated. And I mean, they're like, oh yeah, we've got all these awesome mini games. Well, you know what? Those mini games, half of them were unplayable.
Mm-hmm.
And the other half just sucked.
Yeah, if you spend more time on, website developers over your marketing and peripherals, I think Neopets would have never faded into obscurity like it did, but
Like, they had a whole line of plushies.
I forgot about that.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, Neopets themselves are freaking cute.
Oh yeah, that's adorable shit.
But at the same time, what the hell? Why? This is like when they brought back Tamagotchis.
Mhm.
Like, they're playing on our teenagerdom.
They know that nostalgia goggles are there, and don't you want to play with your Neopets all over again?
Like, I used to tool around on Neopets, and I think it was, what is it, Gaia?
Gaia, yeah.
Yeah, I lived on those sites for all of high school because I was in grade 9 when Neopets launched. I lived on both of those sites all the time. So, I mean, if Neopets is coming back for mobile, do you think Gaia might be coming back too?
Oh, no, please. Not Gaia, anything but. I don't need that in our life. But everything will eventually get a retro revival. I'm sure that's gonna happen eventually.
Oh, really, Coop? I didn't know that it had been bought out by another company. That's kind of saddening. I remember at one point they had a Scion crossover event, and you could actually get the car or whatever Scion was popular at the time to race in. And the races were pretty much click like a mad fool. Many mice must have been broken.
God, it tells you so much about the pre-social media environment where, like, I believe the top two websites for a period of time were Something Awful and Gaia Online.
And like then you had like your E-Bombs World and Albino Black Sheep and Newgrounds. I remember the Newgrounds voodoo dolls that you could send via email were freaking awesome.
True.
No, that wasn't Newgrounds. That was Pinstruck or Pinstuck or something like that.
Something along those
It's
lines.
been like 20 years.
And of course, our last story of the day, the reviews are in for The Last of Us 2. And holy goddamn shit, a 96. I don't remember seeing anything over like a 90 for a long time.
But bear in mind, the user scores haven't rolled in yet.
Oh god, I don't want to see the review bombing that The Last of Us 2 is going to get. Basically everyone that I've seen who have played this ahead of time, without, they're of course not allowed to give out any spoilers at this point since the game is not releasing until this Friday. But yeah, that the game is absolutely not what you're expecting to be is what the phrase that I've heard multiple times over.
I mean, didn't Death Stranding have a super high Metascore until the user reviews rolled in?
Nah, I want to say it was like an 82 or something along those lines, which it deserved. It is a an A minus B plus area game. But yeah, Coop, you're not wrong. At a 96, I believe that is roughly the same score that Breath of the Wild got. So if this game doesn't just pop out of the block box and blow me, I'm going to be kind of disappointed.
I mean, Breath of the Wild deserved that high of a score. That was an absolutely stellar game.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it wasn't absolutely revolutionary, but it really took a genre that has existed for this long and changed the way you look at it. So I would be surprised if The Last of Us 2, there's got to be something big here that we're not certain of, which is funny to me because just a few weeks ago, people were talking about how disappointed they were because of the leaks that came out and that it looked like garbage. Yeah, Breath of the Wild has a 97 on Metacritic. It made me question myself.
I think you might have been questioning as to whether or not it actually deserved that score.
Yeah, I don't even know that Breath of the Wild was great, but I don't know if it deserves a 97, to be honest with you. Um it was revolutionary for a Zelda game, but I couldn't say it was a revolutionary game.
But does a game have to be revolutionary to be good?
No, and I mean, I can't think of anybody that hasn't loved their time that they spent with the game, and you can decide basically when you're out. Um, and Zelda sold consoles, so we'll see how that goes for The Last of Us 2. I was definitely worried about the game for damn sure, especially with the marketing seeming to focus so hard on the let's burn our queers storyline. But seeing these reviews make me hopeful that maybe I don't expect Ellie's partner to survive this game, to be honest with you, but I'm hoping for a more nuanced take than it looked like.
Yeah, I I mean, I've seen both sides of the controversy, but I also know like if you look at game trailers, you look at game reveals, it's done very similar to movie trailers. You're going to put all of the interesting beat you over the head stuff in that trailer. But the game itself or the movie itself is going to tell a completely different story.
Hmm. Definitely hope so. And one of the things that a whole lot of critics have praised the game for is its amount of accessibility, saying that there are 60 different accessibility features from visual aids to audio aids. Um, this might be the most accessible AAA game to have ever existed, and that is huge, for the disabled community here to have a AAA game that spent a lot of time making sure that this game could be played by almost anyone. That might need assistance in some way, shape, or form. There's so many modifying ways between, not just talking about difficulty, but your high contrast mode. Having ways for the visually impaired or people who can't hear at all, bigger maps, larger text, all of this.
Having text to speech,
Mm.
which is huge. And they said that they built their own text to speech engine so they could make sure that all of the phrasing that they needed to use would be able to be accessed.
Yeah, so I mean, I know I have raved about the accessibility features that Celeste put into their game, and um, you know how much that means putting that amount of work into it. But um, from at least an accessibility standpoint, The Last of Us 2 may be, the new gold star of, hey, if you want to make a game that is accessible for everyone, here is how you do it. And that's exciting to see.
Most definitely. And there have been some incredible reactions from the accessibility advocate community who were invited to to consult on this game. Um, for example, and Maggie, you'll recognize this name, Steve Saylor, also known as the Blind Gamer. I met Steve back in college and was working with him on a college radio show called This Week in Geeks. So he's actually one of the ones that got me into video game reporting. He did a lot of consulting with Naughty Dog for this game. And he is an absolute sweetheart. I encourage you guys to check out his YouTube channel. He started the Blind Gamer years ago just as a poking fun at games and how they're not made with accessibility in mind. And so there's a reaction video on his Twitter channel at Steve Saylor when he received his review copy of The Last of Us Part 2, and he broke down in tears because this is what he and the rest of the accessibility advocates have been working for. This is why they do what they do. And I'm just so thrilled to see that all of his hard work has paid off.
No lie, this is it's really cool to see, especially with how companies like Microsoft are releasing more accessible game pads for the physically impaired and things along those lines. It's good to see that the companies are starting to consider not just those normally abled, but those of other communities as well. So, I mean, that shit's just heartwarming. That's all I can say on that.
It is. It just makes me so happy that I've had games where I've struggled. My vision isn't the greatest, my hearing isn't the greatest. And to see that there's now a game that's coming out that I'm going to be able to play without having to mush my face into the screen to be able to understand what's going on, it thrills me. It really does.
At the very least, not have text so fucking tiny, like, what the fuck is that? Because I mean, there's a lot of this. Gaming is the time that I always put on my glasses because I never know when I'm going to need to be able to read something that I just can't fucking read.
Exactly. Look at Skyrim. I love that game. It took me so long to learn how to play it because I couldn't read the tooltips.
Yeah. I especially with Death Stranding was a huge issue for me because the text was goddamn tiny in that game. I don't know fucking why either. I guess it made his UI more pretty, but I don't care.
Yeah. I'm that kind of person, you know how far away from my TV my couch is.
Mhm.
If I'm flipping through Netflix and I want to read the description of a show, I have to sit on the floor in front of the TV to see it. So I either need a bigger TV or I need it closer to the couch. But being able to, yes, Maggie, you make a perfect point. Divinity is awful for tiny text. I love Divinity too. It is a pain and a half to play if you can't see well.
Yeah, and that's we're not even in the disability range, but we're talking about our own gaming experiences where we're like, what the fuck did that just say? For no good reason. So just kudos, I guess. But that does finish us off here for Mr. Video Games for June 15th, 2020. But of course, we cannot finish Mr. Video Games a single episode, not even an episode going 2.5 hours long today, by not talking about what is Mr. Video Games. Of course, this award is what we give to the person, place, thing, noun that does thing that is so good, bad, evil, great, suspendous. It doesn't fucking matter. It is something you look at and you just eyeball and go, yeah, that right there, that is video games. And the winner of the award for June 15th, 2020 is KFC Gaming. Again, two-time award winner with the KF console. A cross-platform console, apparently, that can also heat your fucking chicken for you, because why not? Supposedly launching November 12th of this year. I am sure this is absolutely a giant fucking goddamn hoax, but they'd better make something out of this, because that shit is a fucking head scratcher. A bucket of chicken shaped console.
I was gonna say, I mean, I hope it's like just a a complete joke, but at the same time, I kind of hope it's not.
I would absolutely laugh my ass off if this is like something they went in with maybe like this is actually a thing that they worked on with like say Alienware or a company like this, and it's some form of PC sort of thing. That wouldn't amaze me. Um,
This is right up there with the Razer toaster.
Of course, if more of this comes out, we will absolutely tell you if this becomes a fucking thing. Um, but yeah, there you go. That is the
And
KFC console.
we're gonna actually have to give props. Oh God, Mags. We're gonna have to give props to KFC because I believe, at least since I've been on this show, this is the second time KFC has made it to our Mr. Video Games
Yeah, the
because
first
they
time.
released that god awful visual novel on Steam.
Yeah, that visual novel. Brian was so excited to play it, and then it was such a huge different disappointment to him that just a crying shame. There is so much room for fried chicken and love to come together, and dead opportunity. Maybe they'll make it back with the KF console.
I can't believe those words just came out of your mouth.
It is 2020 is a year that exists, and boy, has taught me to not expect what happens tomorrow.
This is also like this KF console is also firmly reinforcing to me that the marketing company in Spain that started putting mirrors on the side of bus stops, like the little bus shelters,
Mm.
with the label Black Mirror 6 2020 airing now and everywhere.
It's not wrong.
Like, I think they were dead on.
Of course, this has been Mr. Video Games for June 15th, 2020. Our current, we are back on Mondays from here on. Myself and Brian are going to be coming to you with a new podcast probably next week. The history of the world. We already have kind of an idea of what we want to talk on. I have to do the research. Which I keep putting off, but I've decided that come hell or high water, we're going to do it next week. And boy, if I just haven't gotten it perfectly researched, then that's my bad. I need to fucking learn. Yeah, it absolutely is part one, Coop. Of course, follow us on our Discord. We are talking in there daily about gaming and media and politics and all that good shit. The link to our Twitters and our Discord and all of that good stuff is what in the doobly-doo. We love conversations and talking about all of this weird-ass gaming shit. Of course, every episode of Mr. Video Games is archived on youtube.com/CPGP Games. So find us there, and if you miss any episode, you can find out what gaming news you need to know that you might have missed right there. Marilyn, any final words for us this evening?
I think my usual sign off is probably the most fitting. Now, more than any time, love each other, be cool to each other. You know, there's a lot of bad happening in the world right now. There's a lot of good happening in this world right now. We all got to stand together, and we need to take care of each other. Definitely check out that itch.io bundle. I'm trying my damnedest to get back into a regular schedule with streaming. You can find more details on my Twitter. I will always post there when I'm going live. And, just be cool to each other. Wash your damn hands. Try not to rush every single store the second they reopen. Just be smart, okay?
Here's just an oddly breaking story from GameIndustry.biz. So a game that has been out on Steam since since 2016, by the name of Airball. Players have noticed that the download for that game has been replaced by a title called Penguin Cretins, which is apparently a full hentai game. So random people going from playing their random, little fun shooter game have suddenly found themselves with the porn game. I'll put a link to that in the channel, but that shit is too hilarious not to drop at the end of the show.
God, where's Hollis when we need him?
I have to imagine somehow he was involved in this accidental porn. How is he not involved with it?
You have a very good point. Knowing Hollis as well as I know, he is behind this.
All right, we have been Mr. Video Games. John Borg, Coop, Magdalene, Kelveran. God, I know I'm missing some people, but I can't think at the moment.
Giant Pie!
Giant Pie, of course. And all of you other people out there who don't join in the conversation but listen to us, we love you too. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Have a good night and a pleasant tomorrow. Bye.